Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America, and we've seen it before. More than a century ago, but the American people stood up to the robber barons back then and busted the trusts. They didn't punish the wealthy, just made the wealthy play by the rules everybody else had to.
Alex.
When he said that, you and I were both on set looking at each other like Joe Biden just said oligarchy in his closing address to Americans. It's very clear that he was thinking about, I think, an image that we've all sort of projected in advance, which is the fact that Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Sam Altman are going to be on the dais at the inauguration for Donald Trump. Joe Biden has been very vocal about the fact that Meta is ending fact-checking. He brought it up again in this series of remarks. These pictures are already haunting him in the closing days of his presidency. But it's not just that concentration of power that he clearly thinks of as a direct threat to democracy. He also called out the Supreme Court, right? To go out. This is Joe Biden, who wouldn't say a bad word about the court.
Yep.
And by the way, can I just say, props to him for mentioning the free press, because he has had a complicated relationship in terms of access, giving the press access to this particular presidency. But he is an institutionalist to the core. For him to call out the Supreme Court in the way that he did, call for term limits, call for an enforceable code of ethics, and call out their decision on presidential immunity is someone who...
Joy, one of the things that is striking about this warning about the tech industrial complex is I think everyone feels a little headspun by how quickly this has all seemed to congeal in terms of Bezos, Zuckerberg. You know, there was first Elon Musk, but this sort of kissing the ring. First, it's like, we're changing our policies, but also we're going to be an inauguration, and we're going to throw him an inauguration ball. We're going to give him money, and then Melania is going to get a deal. Like, suddenly this sort of vision of what this could like an oligarchy, not in some metaphorical sense.
Yeah.
But in the very real and recognizable sense of like a few guys and the head of the country.
Right. And the question is, who owns the ring? Because it's not quite clear that Trump is the owner of it. Mm-hmm. Because in the end, when they're sitting on that dais, they're going to be sitting in a position of tremendous power over him. One of the other pieces of news, Rachel mentioned him, Biden making news. He said we should ban members of Congress from trading in stock while in office. One of the sort of dirty little secrets is the oligarchy was already here. Like America has sort of been hurtling toward oligarchy from the very beginning, when it was a few plantation owners and everyone else couldn't vote, right? Even, white men without land couldn't vote. And we've been sort of trying to pull ourselves away from it. And the 20th century, which is the century that so offends Leonard Leo and Sam Alito and others, the 20th century was the era, the American century, when America pulled itself back from this notion of oligarchy to an incredible extent, invented a middle class. The things President Biden was talking about in that first 9 minutes, those are the things that the 20th century built when we beat back the robber barons and beat back the trust and established an income tax, which didn't exist until the 20th century, established women's rights, civil rights, immigrant rights. That's the 20th century. And these oligarchs, they've always been there. Who do you think was paying for, Rush Limbaugh? He was a very wealthy man. Fox is owned by an oligarch. Who do they think is funding the Ben Shapiro and other podcasts? The oligarchy's been hidden in the background the whole time. And Biden is this pivot president as America is hurtling towards sort of falling in love with these rich tech gods, these tech bros. Then you have Biden sort of sandwiched in the middle of Trump. And Trump trying to go the oligarch way the first time with some hurdles, and then Biden offering this small pivot where suddenly labor is getting wins, right? Where he's standing on picket lines, where you're suddenly seeing unions come back, and you're seeing him say, no, we're going to build our bridges, our roads, stuff that regular folks can enjoy. You have this pivot, and then we're going back. He is that wedge that was between us and an oligarchy we've been hurtling toward for a very long time.
Welcome to Let It Be Known News. And there's a lot to unpack there. As RNG says, Biden's words pretty much are irrelevant in a lot of ways. He says he will be attending the oligarchy's inauguration, which is what he said, right? So why are you doing that? And that's been Biden's Achilles heel throughout his entire presidency. This tradition stuff, tradition. He complained about the Supreme Court. He could have done something about it. He complained about the idea of this oligarchy, and as Joy was pointing out, it had been there. You could have done something about it then. There's a lot there to unpack, but we're going to take a different twist on President Biden as he gave his farewell address. His career in politics is now officially over, at least come Monday. You can't see him running for any other office, right? And he's not going to run for any other office. And we can look at it from a perspective of his legacy with Black America. How about that? Also, this morning, we're going to talk about and really want your thoughts on the Drake Universal Music Group lawsuit. He says that Universal has put his life and reputation at risk, and we'll tell you why. If you haven't read that lawsuit, it's a very interesting lawsuit that Drake has filed. This is, of course, in response to They Not Like Us, the Kendrick Lamar hit track. Also, a New Jersey mayor, and for those living in New York who are complaining about the congestion fees, the so-called congestion fees that Mayor Adams has now instilled, a New Jersey mayor is proposing the idea of a reverse congestion pricing, a toll after New York City implemented its controversial law last week. Tell you what this New Jersey mayor is proposing this morning. And more from the entertainment world and lawsuit world. They go back decades and they were once rivals, but Al B. Sure has never sat down for an interview until now. Sean Diddy Combs is the subject of it, and Al B. Sure is accusing Diddy of murder. Yeah, murder, she wrote. But first, really want you guys' thoughts on this, and I hope Greer has the video or the pictures. This flight attendant from California, she was terminated from a job at Alaska Airlines after she posted a now viral clip of her twerking while waiting for a pilot on an empty flight. Her name is Nelly Diala, and she has a GoFundMe that is so far failing miserably, as did her twerk. She says she was terminated from her dream job after she posted that video right there that you're looking at on TikTok. The video went viral overnight, she says, but instead of love and support, it brought unexpected scrutiny. She captioned the clip, which also blew up on Instagram as Ghetto B, and you know the rest of the word, right? Till I die, she writes. Don't let the uniform fool you. And so Alaska Airlines said, okay, don't let the uniform fool you. You're no longer working for us. Take it off. They stripped her of the uniform after twerking. But your thoughts? Is that a fireable offense, and why? Why is that a fireable offense? Now, I'm going to give you my thought on it. Yes, it's a fireable offense. Yes. She is in an Alaska Airlines uniform. She's on an airplane. She's representing Alaska Airlines. And I tell you what, it's about time somebody stood up and said, we are tired of this same old, this craziness. Everybody wants to twerk and show their behinds. Goodness grief. It reminds me of the comedian on The View, not Whoopi, but this it was a comedian on The View who talked about Kim Kardashian and said, you know, you want to impress me. At this point, we've seen everything except your insides. Folks, I'm here to tell you that from a man's standpoint, I just can't see the twerking being such a, for lack of a better term, such a turn on anymore. Everybody is doing it. And it's at inappropriate times. I'm going to tell you, there are people who said that Meg Thee Stallion, when she went to Vice President Harris's campaign rally and she twerked, they thought it was inappropriate at that time. There's so much of this. You are representing your company here, no matter what you say. She could have did this if she was taking a personal flight, no problem. She has the uniform on. What do you think? Tell me your thoughts on this woman losing her job because of this video. She's in full, it's like a police officer, right? Police officer can't do whatever he or she wants in uniform. In fact, they probably can't do whatever he or she wants when they're off duty. And David Youngblood says yes, because it's a business with a reputation. And that I agree with as well. Anybody else agree or disagree? Let us know. But this was something that got her fired. She goes, "What's wrong with a little twerk before work?" Well, she found out. She messed around and found out, right? Orange G says she will make millions on OnlyFans. He says, and I am going to go here. If she was pale skinned, she would have been appointed to the Trump administration. Trixie is writing in and says it's like they only have that to offer. Stop twerking, she says. Well, that's what and that's what I was getting at too when I said, even from a male standpoint, it becomes okay. What else? Most can do it. Maybe some you feel can do it better. Who knows? But what else do you have to offer? It's just insane. So now you join the ranks of the unemployment. Michelle Madison says she agrees with David Youngblood. Yeah, I agree with David as well. It's just too much. You can't put on the uniform and go on the plane and start twerking. And folks, there are some who say, well, nobody's on the plane, nobody's there. This is just her. She still put this out publicly. Nobody else put it out publicly. She did. Looking for more comments, if you will, but we're going to move on to something else I want your comments and your thoughts on. Drake, in a federal lawsuit he filed yesterday, accused Universal Music Group of putting his life and reputation at risk by releasing and promoting They Not Like Us. During a venomous back and forth barrage of diss tracks last year, Drake and, of course, Kendrick accused one another of phoniness, hypocrisy, and abuse. But while fans anointed Kendrick's chart-topping single, I should say, the battle's knockout blow for sure. I mean, let's face it, that put everything to bed, didn't it? But Drake saw the song's punchlines that invoked pedophilia as something far more insidious and with real world consequences. The lawsuit spells out that the cover of Drake's, not Drake, but Kendrick Lamar's song also featured Drake's home with those red dots that they identify where pedophiles live. You can go online and they have these websites that tell you where pedophiles living. And they put Drake's home. Kendrick Lamar apparently put Drake's home on that list, and he had gotten threats at his home, et cetera, et cetera. When you look at it from that context, folks, does Drake have a case? Should he be? Let's face it, he and Kendrick are on Universal Music Group. They're both artists signed by Universal. Look, get your thoughts on that. My thoughts? Well, after seeing what Drake, if what Drake is saying in that lawsuit is accurate, that and so I the only thing I followed was the fact that they was beefing, and everybody talked about Not Like Us, but to accuse someone of pedophilia and to then single their homes out, to tell people that this is the home of a pedophile and put it on, it's a high profile person like Drake. I think you might have crossed the line a little bit. The song, fine, but the artwork and the other stuff, you may have crossed the line there. That's just the way I see it. Trixie says, let's be real. Drake have been in a lot of young girls' faces. Millie Bobby Brown, she was 13. Why is she your best friend? there's another side. Lotto's little sister, she says. So I guess what Trixie is saying, if the shoe fits, and perhaps that's what, in a subtle way, even Universal was saying. And that's the way Drake is taking it. And Michelle says she likes the clean version of They Not Like Us. And he does this Drake badly, she says. All I know is I've only seen heard clips of the song because you had so many people like creep walking and stuff to it. Women, men, everybody. So I don't know the full song. I just know it's a diss song. Greer says she was here for the beef. She loves a little controversy. She says she's here for it. But did he cross the line? Did Kendrick cross the line? I get what Trixie's saying. And let's face it, unfortunately, let's be real. R. Kelly is not the only one in music and entertainment with underage women or girls. Shanae says that if no one knows for sure if he committed a crime, you can't accuse him of being a pedophile. Not publicly. You can't do that and go on the record for millions and millions upon millions of people to see it. So Greer said, if we in a fight, you can't tell me how to win. It's a little bit different than that, Greer. I mean, you are putting this in the public record as if it's a fact. I mean, he could have done. I'm sure Kendrick Lamar is extremely talented. Some argue perhaps one of the top talented guys out there. He could have found another way of putting Drake to bed. Didn't seem like it was that hard anyway. David Youngblood says putting his home on the album crosses the line. That's the part. So that's where I'm at. So Greer makes, she says it's a battle. You can't tell her how to win a fight. I get that part, the lyrics part. The lyrics part I get. No holds barred, right? I can go for that. But what David said is what I was trying to articulate as well. Putting his home on the album and marking it the way it was, that seems to cross the line. David said, Greer, you can only meet force with equal force. Greer is, she's bringing an aluminum bat to a wiffle ball fight. She is not playing around there. But this suit has been filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. It accuses Universal of having quote, approved, published, and launched a campaign to create a viral hit out of a rap track intended to convey the specific, unmistakable, and false factual allegation that Drake is a criminal pedophile, and to suggest that the public should resort to vigilante justice in response.
Drake, I hear you like I'm young.
You heard that, right? ORG says, I don't do rap beef. I grew up with the whole East Coast versus West Coast beef, and we lost two of the greatest rappers over nothing. 100%. 100%. And yeah, true. Chris says it's true, ORG. It is. And I've always, listen, we go back even further, right? LL Cool J and Kool Moe Dee. Of course, LL ate them for breakfast. Oh, there's the big guy chiming in, Mark Mahoney. He says that Drake accused Kendrick Lamar of being a wife beater and said Kendrick Lamar's friend was actually his son's father. He does not have the moral high ground. See, now the big guy, he's into this stuff. So I see somebody else's comment. Let's see. I saw a comment from my brother Darren, but now I can't find it. But Charlie Martin says Drake got his feelings hurt. I can't find Darren's comment, but he commented, and he is. I'm looking for his comment. I don't know where he's watching from. That's my problem. But he's a DJ, so I want to hear what a DJ has to say. If he can convey that comment either on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, I'll be happy to uh, read it because I want to know what it says. It popped up and went away. Real Roxanne rap beef was entertainment. RNG says, yeah, that was right. Right, the whole UTFO situation and the real Roxanne and Roxanne Shante. Oh yeah, that we remember. That's from the '80s as well, like Kumo D and LL. And the East Coast versus West Coast. I agree 100% with that. That was more. Was that more '90s, early '90s, mid '90s type thing? That's the other thing with hip hop. I mean, they it's a tradition almost of you get these rappers going at each other. It's part of what makes it, I guess, authentic, right? It's from the hood. It's from where we grew up. Dr. Ice, yeah, educated rapper. Yeah, y'all remember all that? And Southbound chimes in, and this is a problem, right? He says the KKK says that we don't have to kill blacks; they kill themselves, and that's another view. That is another view. But folks are saying, as Charles Martin, that Drake just simply got his feelings hurt. And I just don't. Listen. Far from a Drake fan. Don't follow Drake. Don't could care less about Drake. I like his uncle a whole lot better than I'd ever like him, Larry Graham. So, but I know one thing. That is as low as you can, put somebody. That uh, pedophile. That's worse than anything you could call somebody in my book. Murderer, thief, uh, you know, whatever else. But a pedophile, oh boy. Trixie says he sure did call him a wife beater and did say that he is not the father of his kids. It's his friend's kids. Yeah, that's something that, hey, those are fighting words. Oh, Mark Edmonds chiming in. Why these dudes just can't focus on their craft? I guess any promotion is good promotion. Well, at least that's what Drake thought until he got called a pedophile. Oh, he also named in his lawsuit Spotify and iHeartMedia.
So tell them again, me come to tell them again. Tell them again, me come to tell them again.
Boy, I tell you what happened to old school hip hop.
And keeps on making it. Brooklyn keeps on taking it. Bronx keeps creating it. And Queens keeps on faking it.
She loves that little piece of that track. I don't know why. I mean, because look, if you're not representing Queens, then Michelle Madison says, I remember in 1993, Dr. Chavis formed a summit for the East and West Coast to stop beefing. Yeah, the hip hop summit with Dr. Chavis and Russell Simmons. Danielle Pierre says it is his home on the record label. If it's the record label's home, he just released the address of his employer. Exactly. You can't do that part. The other stuff, I hear what y'all saying. No holds barred. But the putting his home on there, and he had some issues with folks coming to his house, the one in Toronto anyway. So the bridge is over. Again, it's certainly a conversation piece, and it's going to be interesting to see where they go from there. And I guess also Kendrick Lamar is going to headline the Super Bowl halftime show, so it only adds steam to that, and perhaps more curiosity, more watchers, more viewers. So the one person out of all this who is happy about it is Jay-Z, and of course the NFL. So we will see what happens. For folks in the New York tri-state area, the battle is on. Talking about battle, and the New Jersey mayor is proposing the idea of a reverse congestion pricing toll after Mayor Adams implemented fines or penalties. He doesn't call them fines or penalties, but simply levies last week. Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop, who is also running for governor of Jersey, floated the idea to Fox 5 New York. He says New Jersey has the same opportunity to push the buttons that New York is pushing against us. He says we could do that to them, but the goal is to get to a table to have a reasonable solution. The thing is, this congestion tolls, New Yorkers pay a lot. Those who work in New York, who have to drive in Manhattan, have to pay major tolls. You can't get to Manhattan unless you go over the Queensboro Bridge or 59th Street Bridge, or now they call it the Ed Koch Bridge. You got to pay. And then what is the tolls now? What is it, like $10 or something like that? Trixie, what are the tolls in New York right now? Charlie Martin might know. But I know subways is it probably costs you $5 for a subway ride now. It's been so long, I have no desire to get on a subway anymore. I will not take a subway anywhere. Amtrak. or maybe what is the other one that goes out to Long Island? Metro North or the Long Island Railroad. Yeah. But the mayor in Jersey said he believes that the reverse congestion prices um, would kind of make things a little better for New Jersey somehow, New Jersey residents. He says there's plenty of crossings, and this is true, between Staten Island, New York, Bergen County, Hudson County, into Jersey. And that's the last, see, they have toll wars now. This is what we're talking about, toll wars. See, the car toll there, congestion relief zone, $9. There it is. Charlie Martin says $9 with an easy pass. Trucks is more. $9. $2.25 overnight. And they send you these, they send you this by mail. Because there's cameras everywhere, and they take a picture of the license and all that stuff, which to me is very invasive. But $9. And gas in New York, every time we get relief in other places, like if you go to Maryland or Delaware or even parts of a lot of parts of Pennsylvania, you might find gas at $2, $2.50 a gallon. In New York, you're gonna pay $4. You're gonna pay $4 already for that. Trixie said they have drama on the Metro North too. Nothing is sacred anymore. Nothing. And real quick, Mark Mahoney he's coming and he's swinging a little bit late, although he did chime in earlier on the Kendrick Lamar Drake thing. He says Kendrick called Drake a colonizer, which is a hilarious thing to call someone. Charlie Martin says that this congestion pricing is going to destroy businesses. And Trixie says they don't care about the people. The government is greedy. Yep. Mark Edmonds says them roads been paid for. It's just more taxation on folks. Wages are not going up. Everything else is going up. She said eggs cost $11.99. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Everything going up except wages. Think about it, folks. I don't know what folks do for a living. Whatever you do, I hope that you're happy in doing it. But when's the last time you got a raise? When's the last time companies, we don't hear that anymore. The CEO gets the big raise when he's going out, right? Or big payout or whatever. It's like, huh? Yeah, cost of living raises. There's no cost of living raises. Mike V says it's estimated that the city makes $250,000 an hour from congestion pricing so far. $250 an hour. $250,000 an hour. Wow. They're not getting any relief in rents. Try to get a studio apartment in Manhattan. I think that the median price for a 1-bedroom in Manhattan is over $4,000 a month. And then they want to add these other levies. Wow. And you know who your not your governor, but your mayor is going to be next year, barring any type of upset. It's going to be none other than Andrew Cuomo. Latest poll shows that he's way ahead of the field, and Adams is basically almost off the ballot. Wow, Greer. So her daughter goes to college here in New York, and for her daughter's room in Brooklyn, she pays $1,500 a month. That's a room. A room. Good Lord. RNG says, rich people problems. I would walk before I pay that. I received $88 for my cost of living VA, veterans disability check. He says that equates to another sack of crawfish. So of the $88, how much is that going under the mattress? You got to let us know. Because one day, when I come down there, see, I'm representing you, RNG. One day, when I come down there, I got to take a look at your books, see if you're keeping right books. And Greer says she paid that in Brooklyn for a 1-bedroom in Brooklyn back in the day. Right. Remember when right, you can get a 1-bedroom in the 80s, maybe even the early 90s, for $1,500 a month in Brooklyn. Now a room, she says it's not cheap. And Mike V also mentions that 50,000 vehicles pass the congestion tolls an hour. And so you do that by $9 an hour. Whoa. Whoa. How do we buy into that, Mike? Can we, this is about investing. Forget the stock market. Let's invest in taxes and these levies. Can we do that? Would love to invest in that. Shucks. How much a share? He says all 88 of that is going to the crawfish. He said I pay taxes like the 34-time convicted felon in chief. Oh, so you riding on the Trump plan. Good for you. And now we know that, hey, we can't criticize Donald Trump only for evading taxes. We can criticize RNG as well. He and the Don are not paying taxes by any means necessary. They both serve in their country. RNG used to serve his country. Now he's sitting back and collecting his VA check and also collecting interest from student loans from his son, who I continue to admonish him that give his son a break. Give him a break. It's enough. Turning our attention now back to entertainment and courts. Yeah, Trump is from Queens.
Queens keeps on faking it.
Trump is from Queens. Listen, you can't have everything be perfect in this world.
Queens keeps on faking it.
Look, Queens has turned out some of the best ever. Thank you very much.
Queens keeps on faking it.
Y'all see how she calls me petty. Y'all see what she does? That's pettiness right there. Mike V is asking, can we trust Senator John Fetterman flying down to Mar-a-Lago and kissing Trump's ring? Fetterman has positioned himself as the new Joe Manchin. And at this point, he's going to be a whole lot less impactful and a whole lot less harmful than Joe Manchin, simply because the Democrats don't have a shot at anything anyway in his next 2 years. So he is a dollar short and a day late with his behavior. So he can do whatever he chooses to do. It's not going to affect anything. Joe Manchin held up so much progress for one man to really have all of that power that Joe Manchin wielded when he was in the Senate is just absolutely insane. Insane. And Trixie's right. You can't trust any of them. Look, and I've said that all the time. That's from my view. You can't. They may have some of them may have the best of intentions. You hear us, big up in people like AOC and Jasmine Crockett and Benny Thompson. And at some point, who knows? Let's revisit them a couple of years from now. Maybe they would have said, you know what? This is how it works. Let me get mine too. Because that's what seems to happen to a lot of these politicians. Just about all of them. All of them. And speaking of, before I get to Diddy, it crossed my mind. I agree with you, Charles Martin. We finally agree on something. He says we don't need any politicians. Cheryl Lee Ralph is married to, and I really like Senator Vince out of Pennsylvania. Great guy to talk to him a lot. And she did a spread for, I think it was People magazine or someone, and she talked about ever since they were married. This part I didn't know. I thought this was a recent development in their marriage, but ever since they got married, they've always lived apart. And they may spend a couple of weeks. Greer is preempting what I'm about to say by saying, let me say right now, I would love that arrangement. They only spend maybe 2-3 weeks out of the year together. She says he has his career. He's a senator in Pennsylvania. And she has hers, and this works perfectly. That, folks, from the book I read, from the school I come from, is not a marriage. That is not a marriage. Come on. What do you think? What do you think? I mean, look, I know Orangey gets in trouble with his wife and he brushes it off like it's nothing, but they still live together. I know that. They live together.
Why
She
do you
still
do
will.
this? Why do you? I just you did this to just
Look,
you
even
did.
Trixie said, look, Trixie's with you, Greer. She says she might try that.
Listen, this notion that we have to have this traditional type of relationship all the time. I mean, like we need to. That's part of the problem. That's part of the
Anytime
problem.
somebody comes on and I show their face and spew this
Listen,
stuff,
you already know what he
spew
gets.
this
Like, I
stuff.
got a Captain Crunch shirt on right now. Nobody needs to see that. That was for you, Austin.
Well,
I love you. But
why Captain Crunch?
listen, they know, the people who know need to know. Listen,
Why not Cheerios?
I would love that arrangement. And I think a lot of women, especially when you get to a certain point in life, would love that arrangement. But more than that, people should be able to design their relationships the way they work, what works for them. And you have the situation right now, I think it was in Oklahoma, someplace like that. I have to pull the clip, where now you have government entering into people's marriages, and putting all these restrictions on being able to even say that I'm no longer happy here. And it's this white Christian nationalist that's taking rise right now. Now, I love that arrangement. Women of a certain age, darling. Oh,
And listen,
I
don't.
Somebody
And I
with
wouldn't.
a little status and some coins, because that's what it would have to be. I'm just keep it
Let me
real.
tell you something.
Anyway.
If I was in a marriage and lived apart,
That's
from my
you.
wife, you gotta
That's
believe.
you.
No, wait. You gotta believe
Listen,
that if I'm only seeing my wife 3 times out of the year, somebody else is seeing me too.
okay, well, that's you. You're the baby in the relationship. Now we know. Okay, so
Somebody else is gonna be.
now we know.
I'm
Poor
not gonna be in
Shanae.
a Manhattan
Poor Shanae,
hotel
she's figured it
by
out.
myself.
She's figured it out.
She's figured it out. Shanae's
Right,
figured
she's figured it out. God bless her.
She said, Shanae said she should call it an arrangement. For all the rest of us that work hard to make their marriage work may find this to be an insulting way to look at marriage, but whatever works for them. RG says, I am 0 to 98 in arguments with 0 for 98 arguments with my wife. One day I will win one. Well, and so Greer, Mike V is asking a legitimate question. He says, how do you sustain a community under those dynamics? That's a good question, I think. Oh, Trixie. Oh, go ahead. Before I get to Trixie, go ahead, Greer.
Well, no, if that's what your goals are in life, I don't think it's impossible. She, they are in a marriage. That's what that is. That in the marriage that they've decided, it works for both of them clearly because they're still married.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
So
I get what. Let me just say, I also get what Mike V is saying as well. But I just, I draw the line when other people, governments or communities even decide what sort of relationship you should have with the person that your partner. That's where I draw the line. I just don't believe that anyone should
Well,
be.
I totally agree with free will. Totally agree with that. I'm just telling you, a marriage that I'm only. Why am I getting married if I'm only going to see you 3 times a year? That's my question. I mean, they're free to do. And listen, they say they're happy. Like I said, I talked to Senator Vince a whole lot, and that dude is a cool dude. He doesn't seem like he has a care in the world.
There you go.
So it works for them
him.
apparently.
Exactly. What works for you.
Trixie says they say it's no longer illegal to cheat on your spouse in New York and New York City. Mayor Adams has just turned everything upside down, hasn't he, Trixie? That dude is he on the way out. He's gonna burn everything. He's gonna be like Barrington and burn everything down. I want to get to Diddy and Al B. Shore. Al B. Shore has broke his silence about Diddy. Now you know that Al B. Shore and Kim Porter have a child together, and Diddy's ex and baby mama as well. The late Kim Porter, we should say. But he did go on this Diddy documentary, and this is, he says, for the record, he says he has received more than 40 inquiries from production companies and networks since Diddy's incarceration. And now he is going to share, he wanted to share his truth about Diddy and Kim Porter, among other things. Quincy Brown is Al B. Shore and Kim Porter's son. And Quincy, of course, is an actor and musician. He was raised by Diddy after Diddy began dating Kim way back when. And so they, of course, have 3 children together, Diddy and Kim. But in the documentary, to the point, Al B. Shore makes several bombshell claims. He notes that most of the people connected to Uptown's early years, and Greer can tell you a lot about Uptown Records, have all died, and he doesn't think it's a coincidence. He says, let's just say there's a lot to uncover. And he's talking about folks like Andre Harrell, Heavy D, and others. And he's saying that it's something that's been going on in the industry, and those who speak about it usually meet their demise. But he saves, of course, even more venom for Diddy. And he says that Kim told him something was not right, that Diddy's soul was going completely dark, like he's just not there. And so he says that she made him promise, he made Al B. Shore a promise on Quincy's life, not to ever reveal because she was in complete fear for her life. And he blames, of course, Diddy. And he says Porter was keeping a diary. Kim was keeping a diary, he said. And someone got the passcode to a phone and her computer, and they found out what she was writing, what was going on behind closed doors. And of course, not long after that, she died. So Albie Shore making some really serious statements. Um, Trixie says, but he allowed Diddy to take care and adopt his son since Quincy was 3. Yeah, I don't know the backstory to that, which is really interesting. Um, Melba Moore, her daughter, was raised by Bill Cosby. And folks didn't know that until Cosby went on trial for his situation. Um, so I don't know, Hollywood has some, as they say, strange bedfellows. So I don't know the situation as to what really went on because it seems strange unless Albie Shore was going through something in his life, something extremely dangerous to his son. I can't see a man simply saying, "I'm going to let another man adopt a healthy man and a sound of mind man." Um, Say, "I'm just going to step away and let another man adopt my child." Again, maybe there was some health issues. Maybe there was some maybe he thought he was dying or something. That's the only scenario I can paint. Um, to allow another man to say, "You can have my son." That's crazy. It sounds crazy, I should say. So I don't know Albie Shore's story. So I can't in any way judge the brother, as they say. He was absent, Greer says, and if that's the case, then shame on him. Shame on him. He if that's the case, then he needs to pipe down and go somewhere and shut up. If he was simply just absent, didn't want to be a father, you created, you helped, you made that baby, and if there's nothing else like what like I was laid out there, if it's just exactly what Greer said, that you just simply didn't want to be, or you simply was absent, then to me, you just your words ring extremely hollow. RNG says, I don't put anything past rich people. They really believe they are above the law. The death of Kim Porter reeks of a mafia style hit, in his opinion. And Trixie says, from the stories, from what the stories have said about Albie Shore, he's been a deadbeat, allegedly, to all of his kids. So then he needs to just go away. Then he needs to just hush, be quiet, shut up. That's about it. See, this is why I need you guys to chime in with your thoughts, because a lot of times you're more in the know on certain things. So you gotta educate me. So he was also accused of sexual assault, she says, back in the day as well. So who knows what was going on with Albie Shore. So earlier at the top of the broadcast, we saw a little bit of President Biden's farewell address, and folks were dissecting it. We saw Joy Reid and MSNBC team and others dissect it. But what really is interesting to me is his history with African Americans. In her 306th and final press briefing yesterday, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre took a moment from discussing the ceasefire deal to reflect on her historic tenure as the first Black person and the first openly LGBTQ individual to hold that position. Jean-Pierre's reflection is not merely about personal milestones, or was not merely about personal milestones, but it really was emblematic of the broader strides toward diversity and inclusion under President Biden's administration. Now, we know, we've talked about this a lot. This was a very, very different White House. I've gone into Trump's White House. I've gone into Obama's White House. I've had insight, but have not gone into Bush or Clinton's White House, but have had insights there. And you cannot go past 2 people without one of them being Black, at least in that administration, or a woman. When Biden took office, of course, he inherited a nation that was in the throes of some of the worst racial strife. There's been a resurgence. There was a resurgence of civil rights activism as Biden took over. His administration maintained unprecedented diversity, including the first Black and Black woman vice president, the first Black woman on the Supreme Court, and a record number of African Americans on the federal bench. We know about his unprecedented, we use that word a lot when it comes to what President Biden did during his presidency. The funding for HBCUs, et cetera, et cetera. But his track record with Black America is still very complex. His early political career saw controversial stands, such as opposition to mandated school integration via busing in the 1970s. He was once a critic of forced busing, but he argued that it was more necessary in the South, which was a region, of course, stained by laws enforcing segregation. Of course, the North was a little different, but he still aligned himself back then with figures like Senator Jesse Helms and supported measures that effectively stifled federal efforts to enforce school integration. He has a legislative legacy from the 80s and 90s, particularly the 1994 crime bill that he led. And of course, we know that there's been many criticisms of that crime bill. That bill also, though, included popular measures like protecting women against domestic violence. There was the Violence Against Women Act within that crime bill. There was also a federal assault weapons ban. The bill intensified punitive sentencing laws, which is the part of the bill that disproportionately affected Black men. It expanded the death penalty and supported policies that led to a surge in incarceration rates. And so people have jumped on these policies, and understandably so, despite. So that was the problem. Packed in that crime bill was so many good things that the bad part of it got through as well. And the bad part meaning the incarceration rates. Now, some will argue that, hey, what's so bad about that? If you're not committing crimes, you have nothing to worry about. Mike V says Biden's legacy with Black America versus Trump's legacy with Black America. This will shape political science for the foreseeable future. Yeah, well, yeah. So when you dig deeper into Biden's legacy, you realize that this was a guy. One way you can look at it, and perhaps should look at it, is this is a guy who learned that his ways were wrong. If you ever watched All in the Family, Archie Bunker, as that show progressed, toward the end of that show, he hired a well, not only hired, but he adopted this Spanish kid. His views, thanks in part due to the meathead, began to evolve. And the same thing with his character in The Heat of the Night, Chief Gillespie. If you remember when that show started, it was based on the movie with Sidney Poitier. But when that show started, he hated the fact that they had this Black detective come from Philadelphia, played by Howard Rollins, Mr. Tibbs, and they clashed, and he had his racist views. And by the end of In the Heat of the Night, he married a Black woman, Harriet DeLong. And Biden, he had the same typical racist views in the 60s and 70s and the 80s and the early 90s as most white politicians. And he grew, he evolved. And once he served under Barack Obama, he saw some things that he knew he needed to correct, and he wanted to be president. He was left off and left behind in the 2016 race. And he talked about it then too. But he was not to be denied in 2020. And throughout that entire pledge, that entire campaign, he vowed, unabashedly so, that he was going to correct his record with Black America. We had that huge, huge meeting with him in South Carolina. And he spoke of these things very openly. And he didn't mind you bringing up the crime bill. He knew where he had erred. And that's the difference between, that's one of the differences between he and Donald Trump. Donald Trump has used the White House as a way of killing any DE&I initiatives, anything that helped African Americans. Biden, on the other hand, has flipped the script. He saw the White House as a means to right the wrongs that he had committed during his political career. And Trixie is right. You are not born a racist. You are taught to be one. And so we have to, or we should, we don't have to. You look at what he did for Black farmers, Joe Biden, finally getting them justice. The Black unemployment rate was the lowest in history under President Biden. There was the child tax credit that helped cut in half Black children, the number of Black children living in poverty. So there was so much that he was able to accomplish, yet there's still a lot we can criticize him about. But there's always going to be the pros and the cons. And this man's legacy with Black America will always have that stain of the crime bill, but will always, and particularly now, history is going to, particularly Black American history, is going to fondly remember Joe Biden because of what was before Joe Biden, the 4 years before, and what is to come now. So Black folks will remember him with extreme fondness, because we know, and even watching those confirmation hearings, the hatred of minorities that this administration, led by Donald Trump, has is so palpable. And you have to truly be the Jim Jones Kool-Aid drinker type not to see it. Or you have to have those same racist views. So that's really where we're going to leave it with President Biden. And we'll see what the next 4 years are going to bring. At least the next two are going to bring, because there is an election, a midterm election, in which oftentimes the party in power loses big time in the midterms. And so we'll see if the Democrats can grab back control of the House and the Senate, which would kind of blunt a lot of what this hateful administration is going to try to accomplish. And that's why they want to hit the ground running. And so you saw the speaker say, we want to get this huge thing going immediately, because they know that they're on a 2-year clock. So we'll see. We will see. But whatever happens, remember, politicians are politicians, and they're going to do what's best for them, not for you, not for me. Some of them may have good intentions, and that those good intentions eventually become a reality that, hey, this is crazy, because no man can change what this world is all about or has become. So thanks for watching, and check us out again tomorrow.
This is Krishana Polite. She is the Chief of Staff to the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, and she's the first Black woman to serve in this role. On New Year's Eve, she was leaving church with her mother when she was struck in the neck by a bullet. Now, she did survive and she is recovering, thank God. But the police got on the scene and they said, oh, you know what? This is probably just a stray bullet from people shooting gunfire in the air to celebrate the new year. Now, first and foremost, how the hell did y'all come up with that conclusion so damn fast? And second of all, why is it okay to shoot gunfire in the air in celebration so that somebody gets struck in the neck with a bullet? Now, the police investigation has gone nowhere. No suspects, no leads, no nothing. And I'm sure you're thinking, Elizabeth, it's January 15th. This happened on New Year's Eve. Why are you talking about this now? Because I just found out about it. Nobody's reporting on it. No national news. And only in the last couple of days did local news outlets in North Carolina start talking about this. I found out about it on TikTok from somebody tagging me in a video. TikTok, which the U.S. government is currently trying to ban, rather than focus on addressing gun violence, or something important, right? But this tracks with the systemic treatment of Black women and girls in the media. We are often not seen as victims. Our crimes go underreported, and this is no different for the first Black female chief of staff to the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina. We know that there are marches happening this weekend, but I want people to remember the march that happened in September of 2024, where Black women were talking about the violence that we experience, and that goes, again, underreported in the media. Now, there is a GoFundMe for Krishana to help with her medical bills and her recovery, and if you feel it in your heart to donate, please do so. This is Krishana Polite. She is the Chief of Staff to the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, and she's the first Black woman to serve in this role. On New Year's Eve, she was leaving church with her mother when she was struck in the neck.